7:07, Team Hochberg Traffic Center time, and Jim Telemonte.
In Elk Grove Village, Landmeyer is blocked west of 83 with a semi into a building. Riverside, eastbound Ogden is blocked. Harlem Clinton with a crash. And there's northbound I-57. All traffic still forced off at 147th or Sibley in Harvey due to a major collision. Traffic's jammed from 159th Street. Bishop Ford Freeway traffic still fairly light, about 20 minutes, 80-94 to the merge. The Ryan runs 26 minutes, 95th to downtown. Kennedy from O'Hare to downtown is 30 minutes, outbound it's 38. Inbound Eisenhower, 40 minutes, 390 to downtown. Stevenson now 49 minutes, 355 to Lakeshore Drive. Northbound Tri-State it's heavy, the Mile Long Bridge to 75th. I'm Jim Telemonte on AM 560 The Answer.
Chicago's Morning Answer continues next. In our 1-hour heating and air conditioning weather center, clouds through much of this day, high 42, and snow crops up overnight, a low of 30. It's 33 right now. Next news at 7:30. Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan and Amy continues next on AM 560, The Answer.
This hourly segment is brought to you by the IRS Radio Hour with Stephen Leahy. Every Sunday afternoon at 5 on AM 560, The Answer.
This is Chicago's Morning Answer with Dan Proft and Amy Jacobson on AM 560, The Answer.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy, and a couple of housekeeping items here. Number one, Puxatawny Phil, no shadow, so early spring. So
well, yeah.
We got that going for us,
and then
which
he
is
did
nice.
a car commercial yesterday with Bill Murray.
Yeah, that was lame.
Oh, I thought that was adorable.
I love Bill Murray, but that was just lame.
And his brother was
funny.
in it. Oh,
Not
it was
funny.
a spoof off the movie Groundhog Day.
I picked up on that.
And what a great relationship he and they have in his new Rubicon Jeep.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Okay, John.
Couple other housekeeping
We're skiing
items.
together, too.
When we were talking about coronavirus, I think I must have said, because somebody caught me on it,
What?
Getting the last chopper out of Hanoi, I made that reference. Of course, it would be the last chopper out of Saigon. So I apologize for that misspelling. I guess I have Hanoi Jane on the mind because I have Dick Blumenthal on the mind, so I'm thinking Stolen Valor. Anyway, I wasn't thinking. And then also, we just want to update Amy's breaking story about beaver penises.
Yeah, it actually was deer penises.
Yeah, the beaver penis story about 12 tons of beaver penis being confiscated by Chinese authorities.
I guess it was. I mean, I'm
It's
reading.
satire.
It's satire.
Not true.
But they do use deer penis and other penises from animals as an aphrodisiac.
That's what I've
in
heard.
Chinese medicine.
Yeah.
No, they do.
Yeah. No, of course. But I mean, for people that may be
the beaver
looking
thing.
online.
Sorry, it wasn't beaver, it was deer.
Yeah.
My mistake.
Well,
I'm owning it, Dan.
Well, you want to get your aphrodisiac right. So if people are looking online for enhancements, I want to make sure they're looking deer penis, not beaver penis. Which is a perfect segue to our friend Jim Carafano.
Hi, good morning.
Yeah, I'm sure he appreciates that. These are the serious, heady matters that we talk about when we're not talking to you, Jim.
Yeah, I can't hear you. There's a lot of static on the line.
Yeah, exactly, right. Jim Carafano, VP of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation. And, Jim, if we could take a cleansing breath, because we need one here. Mike Pompeo was in Ukraine meeting with President Zelensky, and he said this about the two countries and most specifically about U.S. support for Ukraine, which is ongoing.
Today, I'm here with a clear message. The United States sees that the Ukrainian struggle for freedom, democracy, and prosperity is a valiant one. Our commitment to support it will not waver. As I told President Zelensky earlier today, the commitment starts with our strong support for his efforts to strengthen democratic institutions in this country.
And, of course, there was the question about when are Zelensky and Trump going to meet, and are there going to be any preconditions for that meeting, like, investigating Burisma. And, of course, Pompeo said no. They'll meet when time is appropriate. Zelensky said the same thing. We'll meet when there's been substantive things accomplished so we can talk about substantive things rather than just have a photo op. But the timing of Pompeo over there in Ukraine with Zelensky against the backdrop of the forthcoming acquittal on Wednesday, I thought was interesting. How did you read that?
Yeah, I think there's kind of three big messages. That's certainly one is the United States is signaling that from the administration's perspective, the impeachment is behind us now. We all need to get back to the bilateral relationship, and people shouldn't be risk averse about going to Ukraine, talking to Ukrainians. That we have more important things we need to move on. Clearly, Ukraine is an important part of a stable Europe. This administration's actually been committed to that since day one. I mean, look, we can't be Pollyannish. The president's always been skeptical and critical of Ukrainians. He thought they were working with the Democrats against him in the election. He believes there's widespread corruption there, so he's always been a little skeptical. But having said that, for 3 years, his administration, under his direction, has been rock solid in support for Ukraine. And I think the third one is I think we all have to kind of acknowledge that Zelensky's turning out to be the real deal. I mean, I think many of us, doesn't matter what you thought about Ukraine, we're skeptical. Could this former actor really deliver, have a serious anti-corruption campaign, really lead his country, stand up to Putin? So far, he's done extremely well, and I think he makes a great partner for the United States.
And do you think that's one of the reasons why President Trump held back on giving him the aid at first? Because he is a former comedian and he never held public office before.
I do. I think the United States, not just the president, but I think a lot of people were very curious. I mean, not curious, but very worried that was he actually going to be a real leader? And I think the other area in which he's actually demonstrated, remarkable acumen is in kind of managing the Ukraine-U.S. relationship through the impeachment. He certainly didn't throw the administration under the bus. On the other hand, he really didn't give, in a sense, the other side anything to say, oh, well, you're just kind of sucking up to Trump. And so he really, I think, maintained a very professional bilateral relationship and really kind of giving neither side an excuse in a sense to say, oh, well, you're just pro those guys or pro those guys. So I think he gets super high marks.
Trump delivers his State of the Union address tomorrow night. What are the notes that you would like him to hit, that you would recommend he hit if you were advising him when it comes to being forward-looking about national security and other geopolitical matters?
Well, I mean, I think what we're going to get is what would you get in a second Donald Trump term, which I think is quite honestly what everybody wants to hear on kind of both sides of this. I do this all the time. I talk to people and they always go, oh, my God, Trump in his second term will be unrestrained. And I go, what makes you ever think Trump was restrained?
Yeah, right.
I mean, that if there was something he really wanted to do, he wouldn't have just done it. Yeah. So it's not that that he is restrained. It's just that what will you do at 4 more years? I think immigration and legal immigration reform will be a big thing on the table. The future to additional trade deals, additional trade innovation, I think that's going to be out there. I think probably, you'd want to see, he's offered, whether it's the Chinese for round 2 negotiation or the North Koreans on denuclearization or the Iranians on an opportunity to return and renegotiate JPCOA, or even the Russians to better bilateral relationships with the U.S. and the West. Those are going to be repeated. I don't know if they're going to be repeated in the State of the Union address, but I expect those to be repeated at some point. Then there are, I think, big domestic questions like, is the president going to tackle deficit spending? Is he going to tackle retirement reform? Is there another phase in criminal justice reform? And there's lots of questions about what would be on the domestic menu in the second term.
Well, how much time do you think he should spend on impeachment? Should he just address that right away and then move on?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is half the people in the room were trying to get rid of him. So it's a little awkward. I think it's historically unprecedented that we've ever had well, of course it is, that we've ever had a president actually give a State of the Union address in the process of actually being impeached. The point is
Bill Clinton did.
Did he? Okay, yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But and I don't even remember that. So obviously, but I guess the real question is what's the decorum of the room? I mean, I think all Americans would like to see every member of Congress and the President of the United States act with decorum and recognize that this is a moment that's bigger than them. And so that I don't think it's an issue for discussion in the State of the Union address. It's the State of the Union, not the state of the president. And so the appropriate thing would be for everybody to just sit there and respect the office of the president, and for the president to respectfully use that time. My guess is that's what we ought to expect.
Well, I hope. Yeah. Although it's going to be very difficult for him to resist a zinger or two. Just something like
he's face to face with Adam Schiff for the first time.
Hey, everybody! I'm still standing.
Hi, Adam Schiff.
What we've normally seen though when the president does a formal address, whether it was to the UN or we're actually a State of the Union address, he sticks to a script.
It's a different thing. Yeah, you're right. It's a different thing. I wanted to get your take on the extension of visa restrictions on a number of countries: Myanmar, Eritrea, Kyrgyzstan, and Nigeria. And this is all, again, related to, at least as we understand it, related to not doing enough to interdict terrorism in those countries. So that's still an issue that's in the sort of national security portfolio.
Yeah, anyone who plays this for kind of a bigger, this says something about Trump or something, that's just ludicrous. I mean, this is literally a technical issue. You are not managing the travel of your citizens and the issuances of your passport correctly. Therefore, if you're not doing a legitimate job, we will refuse to work with you. It's just that simple. And what this administration does is they're upfront in their face about that. It's you're not following the rules. We're not going to play that game. That's all this is. It's all it's ever been. It was the first time there was a travel ban.
And, of course, the issue that's been dominating the news, other than impeachment, is the last week has been coronavirus, with some cases in the United States now, and, of course, it's spreading in China to some other countries as well. Has the president taken the right posture on dealing with that and offering aid and support to the Chinese and combating it on their mainland?
Yeah, I think we have seen the administration really step up its game in the last week, and I think that's commensurate with global concern about the disease. The reality is it's not a super spreader. When you have people coming who are already infected in ones and twos, it doesn't appear as if it's being transmitted by casual contact. So even if they come in the country and they get sick when they're here, and they have intimate contact with someone who also gets sick, that's a very manageable problem. I think what we're learning is the real news story here, which nobody is discussing, is the fragility and the lack of capacity and the lack of management and the lack of transparency in the Chinese healthcare system. I mean, they're building hospitals. The reason why they're building hospitals is, when you treat pneumonia, which is what people are dying from, you have to put somebody in a hospital. They need, antiviral drugs and oxygen and rest and IVs. You can't do that at the corner drugstore, and they just don't have the medical capacity to deal with that. And this is, I think, the big story here is, what does this tell us about brand China? We have a country that's spending billions of dollars all over the world to spread its influence. They don't even have the medical capacity to take care of their own people in a flu epidemic. It's ridiculous.
All right, another story as to the wonders of central planning. That's one of the things.
Exactly.
Lieutenant Colonel Jim Carafano, Vice President of the Catherine and Shelby Cullum Davis Institute for International Studies at the Heritage Foundation. Jim, thanks as always for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
Listen to podcasts of Dan and Amy from the AM 560 mobile app. Download it today at 560theanswer.com/mobile.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. If you need windows, call the exterior experts.
Call Crumweedy.
Mark Olson and Greg Olson of Crumweedy. Well, they run a third-generation family business that's been doing Chicagoland exteriors now since 1953. And for them, it's all about trust, and they truly share your values. Why windows from Crumweedy? Now, Crumweedy windows are not offered anywhere else in Chicagoland. They are exclusive, and that's why they can offer a lifetime material and labor installation guarantee. A lifetime. That's a great investment for your home. Windows from Crumweedy are Energy Star rated, unlike most other windows.